On this episode of Law Weekly, we look at the legality of the police dismissing a pregnant unmarried female officer. Senior lawyers say that this practice is discriminatory and unconstitutional. On our interview segment, we chat with Dr. Khushev Ekweme on President Biden's foreign policy and laws as it concerns Nigeria and the African continent generally. We also have our recap of some of the top stories from the courts. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Shola Shieli. Hours after he was sworn in as U.S. President on January 20th, President Joe Biden reversed several of Donald Trump's immigration policies by executive action, marking a stark change in what some have called the tone of anti-immigrant rhetorics and actions of the last 4 years. One of the executive orders President Biden reversed is the Muslim ban, which came as a great news for many Nigerians. Last February, Trump had added Nigeria to an expanded list of visa bans, which was initially just Muslim-majority countries. The effect of this was that Nigerians were prevented from being able to apply for permanent immigrant visas to the U.S. These largely stopped families and spousal reunions and skill-based immigrants. But apart from these, what does the Joe Biden presidency portend for Nigerians and Africans generally? This was the first question I put to my guest, who is a former student of the Hague Academy, a visiting researcher at the Harvard Law School, and an international economic law specialist, and one who's been following Biden's pronouncements lately.
Well, you're correct. I've been following Biden as a candidate and now Biden as the 46th president of the United States. I have great expectations and great hope that the Biden's presidency will bode well for Africa and for Nigeria. I am particularly interested in one observation that Biden made during his inauguration speech, where he said, I'll try, to paraphrase what he says, that the United States will repair alliances and re-engage the world again. And what that tells me is that the United States will embrace multilateralism as opposed to unilateralism, which defined the Trump era. And I see from Biden that the language of its diplomacy will be temperate, unlike Trump's caustic language, which I will characterize as undiplomatic. The description of Africa, the description of President Buhari, which I am not going to repeat. But in specific terms, I believe that the presidency of Biden will be good for human rights in Africa. I think that the Bidens will try as much as possible to put pressure on African states to respect the human rights of their populace. I am particularly interested in what he did during the EndSARS protests, where he sent in words to criticize the government in the way they handled the protests and to express support for the protesters. I also think that his presidency will be good for immigration. Whilst I don't support people running to the United States, but on being sworn in as the 46th president, he did sign some executive orders. And one of those executive orders was the one to reverse what Trump did, on travel bans and restrictions on travels to the United States. So it's a good development. I'm also very happy with the appointments that he has made. Appointed 3 Nigerians to key positions in his government, the Assistant Secretary of Treasury, the COVID advisor to the president, and also counsel to the president. It tells me that he looks at us favorably. And I want to believe that Biden is likely to support the Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala in her bid to be the Director General of the World Trade Organization. You recall that her selection was blocked by President Trump, and is likely that Biden will support because some key advisors, to his campaign have advised that Biden should support Okonjo-Iweala's presidency. Now, I also think that in terms of economic cooperation and bilateral relations with African states, that will see better traction. It's gratifying that the African states are organizing themselves well in relation to economic cooperation, with the coming into force of the the agreement on the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, which is a great step in the right direction. I believe again that Biden will rekindle an American law that is made for promotion of trade from Africa, the Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, which was enacted in the Clinton's administration. I want to believe that there will be an expansion of opportunities in that area. I also think that the war against COVID, that Biden will fight it with more seriousness. Biden is likely to pull back the United States into the World Health Organization, and also to continue to support the World Health Organization. The United States is one of the biggest financial supporters of the World Health Organization. And there is a particular body called the COVAX. The COVAX is a body that is working for making available vaccines to poorer nations. I believe that with the United States back to the World Health Organization, that there will be more funds to COVAX that is helping out in relation to bringing the COVID vaccines to poorer countries, which include African countries. So I'm very, very expectant and hopeful. But I need to foreground that notwithstanding my expectations from the new President of the United States, the future of Africa is in the hands of African leaders and Africans. So as much as we are hopeful that Biden will be a different president from Trump, we should also focus on the things that we can do for ourselves. Democracy in Africa is struggling. We need to strengthen our institutions. If you are unable to have the leaders that you desire, you will not get the government that you desire. It's a major problem. It's important that we build up the backbone of our constitution, which is the separation of powers.
One thing that a lot of commentators have alluded to, which you've also touched on, is the fact that America has strong institutions. How do you think that Nigeria can build such strong institutions?
Well, I think that how we are building is actually to appoint the right people into those institutions, men of character, men of integrity, and men of capacity, because such people will defend those institutions, people that will take the oath of the office, their oath of allegiance seriously. And again, it's not just about Nigeria, the government, it's also about the electorate. The stomach infrastructure should give way for a sensible way, of selecting leaders. It should be about competition of ideas.
One of the things you've also touched on is the electoral process. Last Wednesday, the National Assembly announced that it had begun the amendment of the Electoral Act. Now, as they kickstart the process, what specific areas do you think they should consider, especially as part of lessons from the American transition?
Well, I am an apostle of implementation of the law rather than proliferation of laws. But that is not to say that I don't support legal reforms. It's a good thing that the National Assembly is looking at amending the Electoral Act. But I would want to see provisions that strengthen the independence of the National Electoral Commission, INEC. Even though the INEC, is characterized as the independent National Electoral Commission, which presupposes that it's independent. But in my humble view, I doubt that it has achieved the level of independence that we desire. and a provision along the lines of removing the INEC leadership from control by the president. Once the president appoints, subject to the confirmation of the Senate, there should be a provision that stipulates that the president cannot remove or suspend without reference to the National Assembly. Not just the INEC commissioner, the INEC chairman, and the commissioners of INEC in various states. I mean, we have seen it happen, and the removal of Onogen, and then the removal of the former governor of Central Bank, Lamido Sanusi. Even the law says that the president cannot remove, but people find a clever way to circumvent the law. So we should build on that experience and block, the power to remove.
Now, I want to round up with the contemporary issue of the poor pay of lawyers. I've heard of lawyers who've lost their jobs, especially young lawyers who've lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic. As a partner in a big law firm, what's your message for those who've lost their jobs as a result of the pandemic, or those who are just looking to jump ship to other jobs that pay better?
I know, that some law firms have had to lay off people on account, of loss of business resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. But in my own case, it's gratifying that my law firm has stood strong, notwithstanding the COVID-19 pandemic. But my message to young lawyers who have lost their jobs on account of COVID-19 is that there is great opportunity out there, for them. It's important for them to use their time well, enhance their knowledge, burnish their CVs, and prepare for interviews. They will get better jobs. I have incredible faith in the legal profession and the benefits of the legal profession. And my message to lawyers who are restless and will not stay long, to get the benefit of the legal profession, is that the problem of instantaneous gratification will not take them too far. And that is the problem with Nigerians today, which is that everybody, wants an instantaneous gratification. Great societies, great individuals, Aliko Dangote, Tony Elumelu, Professor Konya Ajayi, and great men, have built themselves up through delayed gratification. And delayed gratification is all about not seeing the benefit of your hard work at the time, you're building up, laying foundation for it. So if you hold on and imbibe that philosophy of delayed gratification, ultimately, you will get the benefit of the legal profession. I know that every lawyer has had his break. There is no lawyer that has focused on law practice that didn't get a break. And there are some lawyers, the kind of breaks that they have gotten, I will say that those breaks were beyond their imaginations. I cannot understand why a young lawyer will leave the legal profession and go and take up a menial job because it pays more. That time, I think that the young lawyer should spend time, improve yourself, and then identify the right law firm to be in, because you need a law firms, the young lawyers need law firms that offer them great career paths, opportunity of learning and development, mentorship, and the opportunity to do challenging works. If you are able to get into those law firms that will offer you this, the sky is your limit. But even if you're unable to get into such law firms, you can build it up on your own.
Welcome back. Now, did you know that an unmarried policewoman could be dismissed from the force for getting pregnant out of wedlock? Now, that's the story of a young lady, Constable Olajide Omolola. Omolola, who was attached to the Iye-Ekiti police station, was dismissed by police authorities for getting pregnant barely a year after graduating from the police academy. Here's what the police commissioner in the state had to say about the issue.
The first stage is the constitution. The constitution that some people are saying that the woman police has right. I agree. The woman police has right as enshrined in the constitution under section 42. Under same section 42 of our constitution, there's a proviso. If you want to join a police force, or you want to take a career in the military, there are certain rights that you cannot enjoy again. It is there in the Constitution. Apart from that Constitution, we have Police Act. And that is another one that members of the public are quoting wrongly. Section 126 talks about maternity leave. If you are serving a police officer, before you can even be granted maternity leave, you will produce your marriage certificate. It's there in Section 126. Section 127 is the one now that people are misconstruing. Where's pregnancy of an unmarried woman police? If a woman police is, a unmarried woman police is pregnant, it is against the police regulation. This particular lady we are talking about passed out last year from the police college. She's about 6 months pregnant now. She passed out around May last year. So which means maybe she was about 4 or 5 months when she became pregnant. And she was coming to do police job. The law did not say policewoman should not get pregnant. We are talking about law and morals here. You have just come in, barely 3 months, 4 months, and you took in. And all these things, they were lectured, they were told while undergoing their training. Unfortunately, me that is sitting down here today, I was one of their commandants in police colleges. I passed out some of them. On regular basis, while undergoing this training, we checked. We do this, we conduct pregnancy tests for them. It has been there before I even joined the police force. So, when they think that these laws are not there, they are there. And the other one, they are saying that the law has been expunged. It has not been expunged.
Meanwhile, some senior lawyers have faulted this police regulation. They say it's discriminatory and unconstitutional.
We're asking that the police should recall Omolola because Omolola, who is a police officer, has been asked to go. She's been dismissed based on the fact that she's not married and she's pregnant. But we are saying that a woman has a right to be pregnant. She has a reproductive right to be pregnant. And a regulation, according to the police, this lady has been dismissed under Regulation 127, which provides that any unmarried woman that is not married and gets pregnant will be dismissed. Meanwhile, the same is not applicable to their male counterparts. It therefore means that this regulation is discriminatory. It is against Section 42 of the Constitution and Article 2 of African Charter. And any law that is inconsistent with the provision of the Constitution is null and void. A similar regulation was taken to court by my organization, Women Empowerment, in 2015. That is Regulation 124 Police Act, which states that a woman that intends to marry should take the permission of her commander, whereas her male counterpart is not required to do so. We filed an action in court that that provision is also discriminatory, and the court struck it down. So we're saying in the same vein, this same Regulation 127 is inconsistent with Section 42. It is discriminatory, and it cannot stand in the face of the law. And so we have written a letter to the Inspector General of Police, and the Inspector General of Police, according to him, says he is ready, he is abiding by their action, and that if we want to go to court, we can go to court. And so we are giving him 7 days to reverse this dismissal, or we go to court. We have the instruction of the lady in question to go to court.
Now, there will be the need to look at the provisions of the police regulations and such bodies, regimented bodies, and see how far they can make them to comply with the dictates of the Constitution. It's not only in Nigeria that you have such issues. Only recently in the United States, and that's one of the executive orders that the President of the United States, Joe Biden, has signed. Under Trump, there was the issue of the role of transgender military officers, what they could do in the military, the kind of assignment they could be given, whether they could openly declare that they were transgender, things like that. It was Obama that made it an issue that they could not be discriminated against on that score. And Trump, dealt with it in his own typical Trump manner, and Biden has reversed that position. So meaning that for members of a regimented force, that police force, or even the military, the certain restrictions they are subjected to. The only problem with this restriction is that men are not similarly subjected to this restriction, and to that extent, there's a clear breach of the provision of the Constitution. So what we will expect, because the Commissioner of Police, Ekiti State, has said that the case of this lady is not foreclosed, that under the provisions, the Inspector General of Police can deal with that and then restore her back. That's what we'll expect the Inspector General of Police to do. It's not that we're forcing their hands, but we want them to be more sensitive to the dictates of the Constitution.
And on the home stretch, we bring you a recap of some of the activities from the courtrooms.
We begin with the report that the Kaduna State High Court, presided over by Justice Gideon Kurada, has vacated the order it made directing the Nigerian Correctional Services to release Zinat, the wife of the embattled leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zaki, for COVID-19 treatment. On January the 26th, Justice Kurada had ordered Zinat's release after her lawyer, Femi Falana, presented a medical report asking the court to allow his client seek medical treatment outside the correctional center, in line with the safety measures put in place by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. On Thursday, January the 29th, the court revoked the order after an oral application made by one of the defense counsels, Haruna Magachi, who claimed that Mrs. El-Zaki has regained her health. El-Zaki and his wife have been in detention since 2015 after his followers clashed with soldiers in Zaria, Kaduna State. Both are standing trial for alleged culpable homicide, unlawful assembly, and disruption of public peace. In Akwa Ibom State, the High Court sitting in Ikotopene has fixed final addresses for March the 25th in the case of alleged electoral fraud made against Professor Peter Ogban. Professor Ogban, who is a lecturer at the University of Uyo, was the returning officer in the 2019 Akwa Ibom Northwest National Assembly election. He was brought before the court by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) on the allegation that he manipulated scores of two political parties, falsified and announced fake results in two local government areas of Etimekbo and Orukanam. The prosecution had closed its case against the professor on January the 25th, and on January the 26th, the defendant tendered 3 exhibits and testified as the sole witness in his defense. The presiding judge, Justice Augustine Odoko, then gave 14 days each for counsel on both sides to file their final written addresses, after which the defendant has another 48 hours to respond. Parties in the petition filed by the Action Democratic Party (ADP) and Emmanuel Boy petition against the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), the People's Democratic Party (PDP), Godwin Obaseki, the All Progressives Congress (APC), and Osage Yamwa to adopt their final written addresses on the 9th of February. The Election Tribunal fixed the date after parties closed their cases. The parties closed their cases after calling witnesses. The 4th respondent witness, the Welfare Secretary of the APC Edo State, Francis Omo, tendered some document in the case against Godwin Obaseki, which bordered on certificate forgery and falsification of results. And we round off with a report that after 13 years of legal battle, a Dutch appeals court has ordered energy giant Shell Nigeria subsidiary to compensate 2 farmers for the damage to their land, which was caused by leaks in 2004 and 2005. Royal Dutch Shell had argued that saboteurs were responsible for the leaks in underground oil pipes that have polluted the Niger Delta. But the appeals court ruled that while sabotage was the most likely scenario in 2 of the villages, it could not be established beyond reasonable doubt. The amount of compensation to be paid will be established at a later date, as the decision can still be appealed all the way to the Dutch Supreme Court.
And that's our program this week. Don't forget that you can find these and past episodes of the program on our YouTube page. I'm Shola Shaley. Thank you for watching and see you next week.